All right, good morning. My name is Brandy Stroker. I'm the director of the Tennessee STEM Innovation Network, which is managed by Battelle. So I want to start us off today with thanking the leaders in the room, as we are joined here in person by representatives from the 88 K-12 schools that have earned STEM or STEAM school designation, as well as representatives from the Tennessee Department of Education. I specifically want to call out Deborah Knoll, Assistant Commissioner of College, Career, and Technical Education, and Audra Block, the Director for STEAM and Computer Science. Thank you for leading the charge. Thank you for supporting STEM education and for supporting the STEM network that makes what we're going to share with you all today possible. You know, partnerships are fundamental to the success of this work, and all of you are essential partners for us. So Tennessee has been on a journey for the past 5 years to advance K-12 STEM learning at the local school building level, and the report that we plan to share with you all today provides a snapshot of this journey. In 2018, the State Department's STEM Leadership Council, which is a collection of industry partners, community members, post-secondary, and K-12 education representatives, took a visionary step in creating a framework that provides schools with a culture model that focuses on STEM experiences holistically. The rubric and the supports for schools and districts has pushed STEM forward in Tennessee significantly. So I just want to say thank you to the superintendents and directors of schools, district level leadership, school building administration, all of those educators out there that really took a leap of faith and joined us on this journey. And we are so glad that you did. Of course, there's always more work to do, and we'll hear from Vanderbilt a little bit later about what we can do, their recommendations to enhance the process. But the intent for our time together today is to celebrate the impact that this effort has had on Tennessee schools, teachers, and most importantly, Tennessee students. So this report seeks to serve 3 key purposes: to provide a progress check on the impact of STEM designation, to identify outcomes based on data and research so we know what we're seeing in practice in schools, and to identify next steps regarding the process cycle. So as we begin 2023, we are sharing what we've learned about the opportunity to reimagine what school culture can be, given the impact that we're seeing through this effort. And it is clear that this process advances high-quality instruction for all students by giving them experiences that help them build transferable skills that can be applied to any industry and any post-secondary pathway. So let's get started. So we'll start with Vanderbilt's Collaborative for STEM Education and Outreach. Over the past 2 years, they have conducted an independent longitudinal study to explore the Tennessee STEM and STEAM school designation process to determine if the framework supports the development of innovative school culture and if it includes the systems and the practices to sustain that culture. So everyone that's here in person, you have the QR code located on your tables. For those that are joining virtually, you can scan the QR code on your screen. So please download the report. We'll also send out the PDF to all attendees post-event, so you'll have that in your email. We are grateful for the partnership with Vanderbilt and the story that they are helping us tell today through data and research. So let's talk a bit about school culture. The research is very clear. School culture is a tangible daily driver of student outcomes. Those words are a call to action for schools to adopt innovative practices to stay relevant to students who live in a rapidly changing world. Culture doesn't happen overnight. You all know this. It develops through intentional communication and purposeful attention, and we believe that the STEM and STEAM school designation process provides that purposeful and intentional focus. There's a wide body of evidence behind the components of school culture. If you look on page 3 of the report, we highlight more about that information. Teachers and administrators understand the vital importance of culture and how it lays the foundation for the school. We are seeing that the designation process provides guidance to create those necessary components. Now, there's no one-size-fits-all culture model. Every school is a little bit different and has unique needs. We wanted to know if this framework provides a comprehensive but flexible guide that offers the opportunity for schools to create a personalized school culture. And you can think of it as my colleague Jessica Holloway described it, it's the GPS of teaching and learning. It's pointing you in the right direction. We also wanted to know if the attributes within the rubric encourage critical thinking and problem solving as a foundation of school culture. So what we plan to share today is the first part of a 3-part series determining if the STEM and STEAM school designation does indeed give students additional opportunity. Today we'll be telling that story. With each part we'll dig a bit deeper into the data and the research, and we will be sharing Vanderbilt's final report later this spring. So the research team identified 3 questions. Does the designation process prepare educators to teach in a more integrated way? Are students from these schools better prepared for the next step in their educational journey? And does the rubric build a sense of community around STEM school-wide? From the evaluation findings, we can say that the requirements within the designation rubric support schools in establishing their STEM culture and community. This is a powerful process. You're going to hear stories from schools today. They will share their perspectives and what they've gone through. The school data within the report is broken into 2 components. The elementary and middle school data was analyzed separately from the high school data. So to explain more about the evaluation process, I'd like to introduce you to Dr. Fears. She is the program evaluator for the Collaborative for STEM Education and Outreach at Vanderbilt.
All right, good morning, everyone. Happy to be here and see some familiar faces that I saw on Zoom over the past couple of years, so happy to be here. So I just wanted to explain kind of how we collected the data. So when we wrote the proposal for this research, obviously we wrote it pre-pandemic, so the plan was to visit all these schools and talk to everybody in person, but then 2020 happened, right? And so we kind of shifted to doing the initial contacts was via phone or email to the administrators or that kind of point person that was in charge of like setting up the TSIN designation. And from there, we were able to set up interviews with those administrators via Zoom. And then those people would then suggest to us teachers that or staff in their building that they would like for us to talk to and kind of get their point of view, get that teacher voice in there. And so we got a lot of that done in 2020. And then as things started to open back up, I was able to then begin to visit schools. And so at that point, that's when I was able to, obviously sending out consents ahead of time, but begin to do the classroom observation. So in student focus groups and collect curriculum artifacts. And so at that point, I would go into the school. The teachers would have already collected consent forms from the students that I would be able to interview. But doing classroom observations, I didn't record, so I was able to just kind of talk, roam around, see the teachers in action, see the students in action, and really enjoyed that. Some of the schools I actually had me get escorted by students, and so they can show me around the school and show me what was important to them, which I really enjoyed. And taking pictures of the things that they had posted on their walls, and even the things that teachers were doing, like their lesson plans, how they had how they were presenting things in class up on the walls, and just allowing how they were taking up their space and using their space in a way to engage their students, right? So. Okay, so I'm pointing in that direction, cool. All right, so what are some of the key themes that we found in talking to, this is mostly from the data from the student voices and teacher voices, okay? So a lot of the things that we gathered were that it was really important that the teachers had that growth mindset. And so they would say things that let us know that they knew that it was okay for them to fail, that they could take risks, and that they would be supported by their admin in that process of kind of tweaking, modifying, and things like that. The STEM professional development. This was really important to me because I feel like the teachers were speaking on things that were not just that traditional, we're gonna go and sit down and look at the data and somebody's gonna break it down for us, right? They talked about working collaboratively with other teachers within their building, through their community partners, with admin, and even side to side with students, actually leading them through some professional development. So that was really interesting. And their growth in practice for the teachers. And so, and that's going to be related to that STEM PD and that growth mindset. But a lot of them really noted that I'm not only growing as a teacher, I'm growing as a leader, I'm growing as, I'm having more responsibility within my school building as well. And moving on to their teacher and the student motivation. So this was really when we started to hear them talk about how much they cared about their school, how much they respected their admin, how they don't want to leave the school. There's one teacher who said, I usually switch schools every 4 years, but since I've been here, I'm not leaving. They're gonna have to make me leave, right? Something's gonna have to happen to get me out of this place. And that trickles down to the students as well. The teachers are engaged, the students are gonna be engaged. And we'll talk more about that. I have a few more quotes and examples to share about that. And also the teacher and the student confidence in STEM. Again, circling back to that professional development and the growth in practice. Once the teachers begin to understand, I can easily integrate this into my content, or I already have been this whole time. So they were able to build their confidence, and that, again, is going to pour over into how they teach and lead their students. They're able to show their students, you can have a career in STEM if you want. They're able to provide them that awareness of STEM careers, as well as just the confidence that you are a STEM person, whether you realize it or not. You're always doing something that's STEM. Right, so that's kind of the initial key themes that popped out. So just to kind of piggyback on that, let me turn my page here. All right, so with this teacher growth mindset, and just in case there's somebody out there who's like, what does that even mean? Teacher growth mindset is just really the belief that there's, and for students as well, that your skills and abilities are not set in stone. You can continue to grow and learn and change at any stage of where you are. And so this came out with teachers mentioning that they have the confidence and the ability to try new things and take risk. And it's, again, supported by the admin that you see next with the teacher empowerment and admin support. So there's one example. I'm not going to call the person out. Maybe they'll speak on it later. But one teacher told us how they had a plan for their students. They had an engineering challenge where they had to build a boat for their admin to actually get in and be able to float across a creek, right? And so it's important that the admin says it's okay if they fail. Right? So what does that mean for that person? They're going to get wet. But that also is going to motivate the students to say, okay, I don't want to be responsible for my principal getting wet, right? And so they have that idea that the teachers know it's okay if we fail because he said it was okay. And also that the students know, kind of get that mindset as well. Okay, we have to try things to be able to make this work. So that was really interesting. And for the teachers as well, having that admin support when they're ready to do that self-reflection piece. They don't feel so much pressure of, oh man, I messed up. That didn't go as well, right? They have that growth mindset of saying, okay, well, yeah, I can tweak what went well about it, what went good, what did the students connect with, what can I tweak and make better? And they also have their admin there to support them with, whether that's principals or academic coaches that are there to kind of guide them and give them that insight as well, without the pressure or the shame behind, I messed up, okay? And yes, and obviously, they're going to make improvements. They're teachers, they care about what they do, they care about their students, so they're going to be ready to, how can I make this better, okay? So growth mindset. Again, we mentioned the teacher empowerment in admin administration. This has been so important with a lot of teachers speaking up that they have to feel safe to be creative. A lot of teachers we know teachers are smart and they are creative, but a few teachers that I spoke to, were coming from maybe a more traditional school in comparison to where they are now. And they said they felt very limited. They felt very boxed in and closed in because they had these kind of set, I gotta read from this script, right? But once they either they came to a STEM designated school or they were a part of the STEM designation process, then they began to see, okay, I can try things. I can kind of go off script a little bit. That's what's going to engage my students, which they are always going to be excited about. And that's going to give them again, they want to stay there. The teachers want to stay at a school where they feel empowered, where they know that their admin is going to support them throughout it. So that was really important as far as their empowerment. Growth in teacher practice. Again, so we're going back to the professional development piece, focusing on that content integration. So one thing that we noticed in some of the schools that we talked to at the elementary and middle school level is, and it depended on the district, right? Some of the districts were kind of up on it, and they were offering more of that STEM professional development. Other schools were kind of having to pull their resources, pull their community partners in to be able to provide that for them. But it was really important that teachers understood that integration piece. So a lot of them would have their professional development within their school. So we're all getting together as a school to figure out how we can work together. Sometimes it's across grade levels, especially like with those elementary schools where they may only have one teacher per grade level. So now we have to work together, and now we can see how can we get our third graders to teach our second graders something, right? And kind of get that community piece going there, and for the students and for the teachers as well. And again, since we're all coming together, then that is going to build our community, our sense of community and pride within our school. And a lot of the teachers, again, were motivated to say, now that we have this STEM designation, we can't just let it fall. We have to keep going. We have to keep trying. We have to keep putting ourselves out there and growing, and that's going to grow our students. And the last note here, and is aligned with all of these things, is that the teachers and students have that confidence in STEM. So they recognize that, and I'll pull up one of my quotes here in a second, but they recognize that even if I'm an English teacher or a second grade teacher, I have that ability to teach, create a space for creativity, for collaboration, critical thinking, and for our students to be able to communicate even as I'm not necessarily trained in science or math. And then, again, that's trickling down to the students to say, even though I don't necessarily feel like I'm smart in math, I know that I can figure this out. I can get help we can collaborate. I can get help from my teachers and my classmates to be able to figure these things out. All right? Cool. Let's see this way. Cool. So just to kind of summarize that, for the elementary and middle school key findings, again, those educators are empowered, and they know that they can take risks with support from their admin. And they value their school to the point of not wanting to leave. They want to teach there forever and ever as long as they can. And they have a unique opportunity to influence student mindset. So we know elementary and middle school, that's about from 5 years old to 13-year-olds. We know that their brain is very plastic at that point. They're still learning and growing. But research has also shown that by the time they get to that 6th grade age, that's when they start to try to label themselves or identify themselves. And that's when the point they'll say, I'm not a math person, I'm not a science person. So for me, I think it's really awesome that we have these schools that are creating this culture that's going to keep their mind open throughout that. Yes, you might not necessarily like the algebra class, but did you enjoy getting to build that boat or to do that STEM project? Yeah, okay, then you're a math person. You did math. You did engineering. You did science with that. And so I think that's really important. We have this quote here that the more I learn about STEM, the better I feel I'm prepared to teach students. And these teachers they're just diving headfirst in it, and I love it. Okay. One more, I think. So what does this mean for the students? So we talked about kind of how it starts at the teacher level, but how does that trickle down for the students? This is where I'm going to pull up my quote here. This is from an elementary baby. I'm going to read it, what they said with all the ums and likes and all that, so you really get that student voice. I'm not going to try to sound like a second grader, though, but I probably could. Well, just this school, I feel like you can say anything to the teachers. I mean, it feels like a second home. It's really nice to have a school like this because I know he's referencing to what another student said. I know, like he said, a lot of places are not too good for schools, but this place, it just feels like home. Like people who are there, like all the teachers there, you can kind of tell they'll protect you. And anything that does happen, if anything does happen, and whenever you're trying to answer a question, they'll listen to you. I thought that was so sweet. And it's really just, again, a reflection of the teachers will answer your questions, or they will help you get there, right? And that's part of that growth mindset. And the teachers will say, I don't know. And that's powerful for a student to know that just because you're an adult in the room, that doesn't mean that you're the only source of knowledge. I can find the answers to things too. And a lot of the students talked about that too, how the teachers, they'll kind of lead you there, they'll help you get there, they might help you do some research, but ultimately the students have that power in their hands. And I think that is trickle down from the teachers being empowered. They can then pass that down to their students. Yeah, let me see, is that it for me? Cool. Okay. So I think I'm bringing Brandy back up. I'll be back.
All right. I wrote down, this place feels like home. Can you imagine that? You know, it's incredible to hear that the elementary and the middle grade teachers' confidence, STEM efficacy, and STEM identity were positively impacted by going through this process, and that the students are now seeing themselves as a math person, whereas they might not have had that view of themselves before those experiences. And it's great for research to show these findings, but we want you all to hear from those that live it every single day and really work hard to bring this innovative school culture to their students. 7 schools have been identified from across the state to share their perspectives. Each represents a different region of the state, as well as urban, suburban, and rural settings. For elementary and middle grades, we have a traditional K-5 as well as a K-8 that are going to share their story. That's going to give us a nice, well-rounded view of what this looks like in practice. So our first group to come up is Overall Creek Elementary School. So I'd like to invite Don Barch and Jenny Ortiz to share their story.
Well, I'm Don Barch, principal at Overall Creek, and this is Jenny Ortiz, my assistant principal. And I'm the guy who got wet that she was talking about. The interesting thing I really got to say real quick about that is, as we've gone through this whole STEM thing, the first time we did the boat floating me, the funny thing was watching the kids' faces when they had to guess how much I weighed to do the math. But the first ones, I didn't hardly get wet at all, but now I get wet a lot. And so the failure, as she mentioned, the failure is fascinating. So I'm going to get going. Got to push the button here. It's been a great journey. It's been a lot of fun. And Overall Creek, when we opened in 2014, fortunately, I got to open a new building. That is a little bit different than coming in and stepping into a building that you want to have a STEM or STEAM school. And I wanted to have an authentic STEM school. Back in 2014, there wasn't a process. And so there's a lot of schools that were STEM schools, but you went and walked and saw those buildings, and there wasn't anything, to my mind, that was STEM about it. And so it was just really fascinating for me to get authentic STEM culture, but we were just kind of shooting in the dark. We were just kind of going with how we thought it looked. But the big thing was, I wanted our children to leave Overall Creek knowing how to think and problem solve. And then whatever the state threw at us as far as testing, they were ready. That was really the motivation that started out. And so we had to build that community, and it started actually with the parents and the kids. I didn't even have teachers when we started that out. So I got to cheat a little bit, and we forced the educators, and that was that early foundation, and I wanted to break school. We've been talking about schools for 50 years about what they're doing or not. We got to change it up. We got to change it up. So this was what I thought best at that time. Then the designation came out in 2018. I didn't care to have a title. I wanted our school to be a STEM school on its own, and its work speak for itself. A title means nothing to me unless it's authentic. And so I got talked into this program and applying for TSIN, and you know what? It's just been fantastic ever since. We get to celebrate today TSIN. Usually we're getting together to talk about schools and strategies and things, but the process is what is just amazing, and it just built a whole bunch of cohesive thought process and put us in line. So it built momentum. Staff, if you came to Overall Creek, you knew it was coming. You had to want to be a STEM teacher if you were going to work at Overall Creek, to just put that right on the top. I got to speed up, my timer's running down. One of our biggest game changers that with the STEM process is when we got our designation in 2018, is when they came to check us out. From that visit morphed STEAM walks, and you see that up on the screen. And those have already morphed this year. They just continually change. And I don't have time to talk about those, but that student discourse and the student interaction is phenomenal. And so the TSIN designation helped us do that. Also, parents like a name of something. It really did help. Like, Mr. Barch, what's this STEM thing in 2014 or 15? But now we have a title, we have a name, and it's all over the state. You know, I was looking at this before. We used to have to explain what TSIN is. What's TSIN? Well, now we don't, because it's grown, and that's what's been that statewide network. And the community support, I'm going to tell you something. When we got designated, it was amazing how I could have had an assistant help me organize all of the STEM stuff that came my way. People wanted to be community partners. People wanting to jump on board and see what that means and what it is all about. And so the designation helped that happen. And now it's just snowballed. The benefits, this is yours, isn't it? All right, go.
So the why, really, the benefits are the why. We started off really wanting to break school, like Mr. Barch said, but really it was about the students. We needed students to be engaged, to have fun, to want to be at school, and we had some natural benefits come from that. School became different. Students wanted to come to school. They wanted to be there. We didn't have as many attendance problems as we had. We did have kids really upset when they missed, like, engineering days, or if they were sick and couldn't be there for a STEAM walk. They were not happy. So we noticed that right away. We noticed that the teachers were more engaged. They weren't having to read from a script. They were able to engage in the planning. They were able to own that and tailor it to their class and to their current events that were going on around us. So they were engaged, which meant the kids were more engaged. Teachers were excited. We quickly learned that parents, like Mr. Barch said, were excited as well. We changed the way we spend our money. Mr. Barch runs everything through kind of what we call a why. Why are we doing this? What is the purpose? And quickly we saw that we didn't need to buy lots of little things. Parents were excited to contribute to the engineering, to the little things that we needed to build. Parents were bringing that in very easily. We saw a huge increase and change in our ELL and our Tier 4 or resource students. They weren't always able to produce on paper, but when it came to engineering and putting their hands on it and sometimes even explaining, we got to see those students shine, and that was very rewarding for teachers. We really did enjoy seeing that. We have enjoyed still seeing it. And the biggest change was behavior. Students did not want to get sent to the office because they knew they were going to miss something. They would be missing a piece of the engineering process, a piece of the research. And so if they made it down to the office, they were like, do I get to go back? How do I go back? What do I need to do? So that really changed office referrals for us at Overall Creek. It's been a great process, and the why is important to us and everything that we do at Overall Creek. And at the end of the day, it's about the kids, the discussions, the conversations. We can walk into the cafeteria just to walk through, Mr. Barch or myself, and the students want to talk to us about what they're doing and how they're doing and what they contributed. And that's different. School hasn't always been that way. So STEM has changed us at Overall Creek. Not really changed us because that's how we started, but it has really created an identity of who we are and what we do and how we do things.
And then to close it up is it's also very competitive, and it's helped our school. It pushes us. TSIN keeps us sharp. We do everything through the rubric. It's through the rubric. So now we just applied for redesignation. Should be pretty smooth except for the work because we've done everything through the rubric, and then it helps, like Ms. Ortiz mentioned, purchases, everything. It just really helped us focus and kind of eliminate, kind of pull the weeds. And so it also has pushed our district. 8 out of 13 schools are STEM designated now, and I think a couple more have applied. And so it's actually a district goal to have all schools designated in 2027. So that is because of TSIN. Thank you.
I just wanted to say thank you to the overall Creek representatives. That theme of engagement and how it impacts attendance and behavior, and the students actually want to talk to you about things. And the fact that those Tier 4 students are now seen and feel like they have that time to shine is just incredible. Thank you so much for sharing. So next, I'd like to invite John P. Freeman Optional Schools representatives, Heather Bryson and Melissa Collins, to share their story.
Good morning, and thank you for having us here. To help maintain and start our school culture, TSIN has been a tremendous support for us. We have been able to do that through various funding sources, through TVA, classroom grants, and MLG and W, to name a few. We have also worked on making sure that teachers receive training through various workshops from West Tennessee STEM Hub and Smithsonian Center. And this has helped enhance the way teachers teach STEM in the classrooms. And we have also received statewide support and involvement through mentorship, mentoring other schools, and also receiving support. And we have been able to serve some of the teachers and our principals on different committees that helps with the state effort of implementing STEM throughout Tennessee. And at John P. Freeman, we truly believe that STEM is for all. And it's amazing to hear some of the teachers, students say, I want to be a dentist or a doctor or engineer. And we're able to do that through implementing project problem-based learning throughout the school. And to help sustain this work, we believe that partnerships and learning experiences have been very important. And as we all know, representation matters. And we try to bring in diverse STEM professionals, but in working in a predominantly African-American school, we bring in STEM professionals that look just like the students, because we truly believe seeing is believing. And it's never too soon to start STEM career exploration at the school level. And we have been able to give students hands-on experience through STEM Fest, MLG STEM Weekend Academy, and St. Jude partnerships. We're able to expose them to STEM experts through the STEM Expo, our monthly STEM speaker series, because we really believe that students should have access to various STEM professionals into the industry. And we're now working on making sure that they go out into the field. And so this year we're working on taking them to Dearborn, Michigan, in Detroit, where they could go to Henry Ford and see what innovation looks like. And all of this have come since we have been a STEM designated school. It's like we're dreaming bigger for our school community. And with the monthly STEM speaker series, we started that this year, where we bring in experts monthly. We open up to our entire school because we have a STEM club, which is for grades 3rd through 8th, but that's not for all students. And so you want to think about a way that you can encourage all students to go into the STEM field. So each month, students come with their families and hear from different STEM experts. And we also implemented a STEM advisory board. And we have STEM experts from the industry, community partners, families, students, and teachers, so we can discuss in what direction our schools need to go into. And some of those partners have served as STEM mentors for our schools. And it's just interesting hearing the student voices, as we heard earlier. We said, what we need to do to get you excited about for STEM? And some of them wanted to hear from famous people, and so we did things differently, getting people involved. Like we had the Chicago Sky head basketball coach do a video to engage the students with STEM. And we had somebody from Straight No Chaser to talk. So it's just amazing how we're stepping out of our comfort zone to make sure that STEM is for all because of becoming a STEM designated school.
And in building and sustaining that STEM community, we really want to get all of the voices and all of the stakeholders involved. So we really rely on that advisory board to give us suggestions and things. What do the industries need? We use surveys with teachers and students and parents so that we're getting everyone to have a voice, and that drives our learning experiences, both for students and for teachers. Our teachers have been able to go to different professional development opportunities with West Tennessee STEM Hub, PBL Works, and even with the Smithsonian. And those aren't just limited to a certain group of teachers. All of our teachers, regardless of their content, are involved because STEM is for all. All teachers are STEM teachers, regardless of your content or your grade level. And all of that really elevates that learning experience for students and for teachers as well, so that they're getting those skills no matter where they are. Even your English class can teach you those skills that you need to be successful in STEM. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much. You know, John P. Freeman is known for providing lots of experiences and exposure to STEM careers and STEM career awareness. STEM truly is for all. Every teacher can be a STEM teacher, and representation matters. So thank you for sharing your story. So those stories really do help paint a vivid picture about how this process builds a strong school culture and community in grades K through 8. There we go. So educators, they're motivated by collaboration, by increased student engagement, and the opportunity to be creative in the way that they're presenting the learning experience to students. So the next section of the report is going to focus on the experience of high schools. So I'm going to turn it back over to Dr. Fears as she talks through the high school findings.
Thank you. So a lot of the same key themes, but different, right? Because they're serving a different community of students, okay? So let me get my papers up here. Okay. So with the teacher growth mindset here, and again, it's going to be combined with the STEM professional development. What we found in talking to a lot of the high school teachers is that they're really like reaching out because they know that they're kind of that step right before their students get released into the wilderness, right? So they want to be able to provide their students with those actual, sometimes those hands-on skills of how to build something, how to work with community partners, and all of that. And so with the teacher growth mindset, they're still modeling that kind of that that idea of it's okay to fail, it's okay to make mistakes, go back and tweak, have that self-reflection piece. But also they're actually putting themselves out there a little bit too. So we had one teacher that I spoke with who she was trained to teach life sciences and biology, but as she began to kind of be at the STEM school and learn about what her students' needs were, she actually began to study on how to teach physics. And so now back then it was 2021, I think I spoke with her, but she was going up to take the physics practice, right? Because she wanted to be able to offer that for her students and allow them to be able to kind of get that experience before they go on to college, because she had a lot of them that were interested in physics and engineering, so she wanted to provide that for them. Same thing with, and this was at the elementary level too, where we have admin or staff within the school that you don't necessarily think as STEM, but they're getting involved with the process. So we have a librarian that we might hear about later as well, but that was very involved, and actually a library was turned into a lab workshop space in a few schools actually. But so that means that teacher actually had to learn, how do I operate this stuff, right, when I have students and teachers coming in here. So that they had to expand their knowledge base in that regard as well. All right, and in technology, a lot of the teachers, especially when you think about social studies teachers, history teachers, English teachers, they wanted to be involved as well. So now they're learning how to use that technology, that lab equipment, and further collaborating with those more science or STEM-based content teachers on how to work those types of things. All right, STEM professional development at the high school level, the ones that I spoke to, it was easier for them to, I won't say easier, they had those community partners that were very engaged when it comes to, we're going to come to your school. We're going to help you all have professional development for yourself. We're going to come and work with your students personally and closely when we can. And so they often had a lot of professional development that was kind of targeted to their community partnerships that they had, which was helpful for them. And the community partners are these are going to be our next, people to work in our business. So we want to make those connections with them now. And so that was a benefit of those types of connections. Also, we had a lot of students actually leading professional developments at the school with their teachers. So showing them, this is how I learned this, and maybe this is how you can help some of my peers learn how to learn this thing too. So I thought that was really interesting that they had that shoulder to shoulder work with their teachers. And then obviously the teacher to teacher collaboration, professional development as well. One school in West Tennessee, they talked about how they had a very large school, a lot of different content areas, but some of the related arts, the band, the art, they were feeling what am I supposed to do here, right? And so they would have big school-wide professional developments where they would have, and the admin was really proud to say, we have 98% participation in these, everybody's here because everybody wants to come together and figure out how can we work together, how can I get involved in this STEM thing, how can we get some collaborations going. So he talked about how there was a fabrication, digital fab class, and how they ended up working closely because he made the comment some of these students, either they love it or they hate it, they're into it or this is the worst thing ever. So then how did they can work with their art teacher, okay, how can you create an art project using this fab lab materials, and how can you make a sale for biology class using these materials, right? So they were able to teach each other. The teachers had to work together to figure out how can we collaborate, and then we work together on creating something for the students so they can actually, again, be more engaged, right? Those teenagers, they will tune out, but they found a way to make it work for them. Okay, let's see. Okay, I think that's all I want to say about STEM professional development. Growth in teacher practice. This was really cool. So we had teachers leading professional developments for their district, right? Teaching their district how to do this STEM thing. We had people going for additional trainings and certifications because, again, the teacher that want to teach physics, they want to have that skill, that content knowledge for their students. We have leadership roles. We had a teacher that was a algebra teacher, but she began to be in a leadership position to help incoming teachers learn how to this is how we do this STEM thing at our school. And then she began to do curriculum development because the school was expanding to offer middle school. So now she's learning how to teach sixth grade math, right? So she's taken on that responsibility as well. And also, again, the technology. Some of these schools, I would just go to these schools and be blown away by the different simulation centers, the labs, the workshops, all of the things that they have available for the students, and that the teachers actually know how to use the stuff, right? So that's part of their growth in their practices. I need to know how to use this microscope too if I'm going to have it here for my students. Film equipment. All kind of stuff that the teachers, again, that was part of their growth, is learning how to use this so I can show my students how to use it. Teacher and student motivation. What I saw that really stood out is that the students really feel a sense of responsibility. They are given opportunities to have a leadership in their school, whether it be we're like a discipline panel, right? So when our peers are acting up, then we can come together and figure out this is how should we handle this, right? And so a part of that community piece. Also, in the connections with their community partners, we have schools that are basically contracted by community partners to create business cards for them or create advertisements for them that's going to go up during their football games and things like that. So the students actually have that motivation to say, okay, this is a big deal. I don't want to let down, my friend's business, right? Like, I don't want to do that. So we're going to actually put forth the effort and be engaged and make sure we do the best that we can. And on the teachers' part of it, they understand that we are setting our students up for their future careers, whether it be they're going straight into the workforce or they're going into higher learning. And so they are motivated to prep their students for those next roles. And they're working really hard. That's one thing they kept saying a lot is, we work really hard. But they weren't stressed about it. They were engaged. They were excited because they understood that this is their students need it. They need it, and it's helping them, and they could see the fruits of their labor even right there in the next step. Even students coming back to them, having taken a class, kind of a dual enrollment class with colleges nearby, and they say, hey, we kind of already did this in your class last year, and the teacher's like, yes. So those moments are motivation for the students, for the teachers as well. And again, that teacher and student confidence. And I think I have a quote here that I would like to share. But we know that the teachers, as they're doing all this professional development, they're learning how to integrate, and they're growing more confident in their STEM knowledge and their ability to teach that design thinking process. Like, that's what can be applied across the disciplines, is how can we put something together, analyze it, see if it works. If it doesn't work, go back and tweak it. That is, we know that. That's life. And so they're able to kind of build their confidence in the knowing that they can model that for their students, especially at this pivotal, almost grown stage, right? Let me see. Okay, so I think the next thing, hold on, let me go to the next slide. I think I talked more here, and I was supposed to say these things here, but we're here anyway. So again, for teacher growth mindset, the teachers interviewed, they show an ability to try new things, to learn from their mistakes, and be open to that continual learning and growth. Again, that growth mindset that they're modeling for their students. The STEM professional development, we talked about this, how they have high quality professional development included for our community partners and teacher-to-teacher led trainings. The growth in practice, they saw retention. There was another teacher at the high school level, so she said she was on the brink of retirement, 16 years in, and she was getting burnt out with the kind of traditional school model, and then she found out about the STEM school that in her town and applied for that, and again, she's like, they're gonna have to drag me out of here. Like, she's loving it. She's an English teacher and just went all in. And she is also another one, going back to the professional development. She got so involved to where she actually went to Paris for a PD and conference on digital fabrication, because she had been involved with it at her school, right? So this is an English teacher learning about how to use with the Fab Lab Foundation in Paris, of all places. And again, we mentioned the change in the roles, how teachers take on different leadership positions, how they take on new trainings and learn different content areas because they want to offer that for their students. let's see, teacher and student motivation, high student engagement, and a strong bond with their community. Again, the teachers and the students, they don't want to let their school down. They might not necessarily understand the magnitude of having a STEM designation, but they know that they're deeply rooted in that community, and they don't want to let people down. They want to try their best at all phases of it. And again, Estelle kind of mentioned that, again, we're broadening our content knowledge and incorporated that design thinking process. So let me get my one thing that I had a student say. Okay, so I thought this was really good. So we had one high school student say, as it relates to the teachers, they literally let you dive into yourself and let you figure out what you want to do. And if you find that thing, they will help you excel in that division. Another one noted when they're talking about taking risks. They said, it's really the perseverance of the teachers that helped me. So again, the teachers were able to model, create that safe space for them and model that, it's okay. My teacher said she wasn't good at technology. She's going to get help from me or another teacher, and we're going to make it work. And I know that I can do the same thing. All right. So I'm trying not to keep saying the same thing, but it's a little bit different. Okay. So again, and with the educators, they were able to note that they are strengthening their understanding of STEM disciplines. We talked to math teachers, art teachers, librarians. They're learning that they are already doing this thing, and they can teach it to their students as well. All right, let me see. I think I got one more. So again, what does that mean for students? I think I got one more quote I want to share for students. So this student was asked about if they knew what they wanted to do as a career in comparison to where they were and how they felt about STEM in middle school. So they said, I didn't know what I want in middle school. I didn't know what I wanted to do in college. I still don't know, but I'm definitely a math and science person. So I find the subjects that are fascinating and kind of easy for me to kind of understand. But getting here at the STEM school, you can kind of explore and did more difficult concepts, but they come easier because the teachers and your peers and your faculty that can help you understand it. So I feel like the school definitely helps promote kind of pushing yourself a little bit without going over the edge. So I think that is just a powerful statement that the students know that they have that support. They can try stuff, and they have people there that's going to keep them from going too far, down the path of, right? Okay, I think that is all for now. Thanks. I'm gonna hand it back over to Brandy. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Fears. So I want to read this teacher quote from one of the previous slides. STEM designation made me a better teacher and has kept me in the classroom longer. Think about that. STEM education is not only an answer for student skill development, but it can be an answer for our teachers. And we know teacher retention is a constant challenge. If this designation process can keep them excited about teaching and keep them in the classroom longer, then that is worth celebrating. It's powerful. So to dig a bit deeper into the high school story, we've invited two high schools to share. First, I'd like to ask the representatives from DB Excel, Shanna Hensley and Antonia Adenolfi, to share their perspective.
Good morning. Thank you for having us. So our original school vision was developed in the fall of 2015, and that vision was built upon 4 cornerstones, and you can see those: campus, content, culture, and community. Within those 4 different areas, we had STEM practices that were embedded throughout, like our project-based learning work, our cross-curricular connections, and then working alongside STEM professionals. So we didn't struggle in building the vision, but our struggle was in integrating the cornerstones and then ultimately giving life to our vision. So when TSIN released the STEM designation rubric, we immediately knew that that was going to be a game changer for us and be a roadmap for redefining what our school could be. Because we believed in the work, we decided to apply, but not with the intent of getting designated, but rather receiving feedback and ultimately getting better, and we did get the designation. We still continue to use that rubric to help shape professional learning and our vision, and with the redesignation process and post-COVID turnover that we've all had, our focus now is on increasing our impact for better student outcomes.
So when we started this work, we knew that we had this great vision, but it seemed a little bit disconnected. And so we knew that this was the right work and it was the direction we wanted to go, but we had to make some changes. And essentially, in order to create our STEM identity, not just among our teachers, but also with our students, we knew that we had to reframe our content. And it's not that we changed the standards, because we're still teaching the standards. It's still the same content, but by changing the context and how we delivered the content was a significant game changer for us. And so by leveraging project-based learning, we were able to provide more relevant and integrated student experiences for our students that helped us ultimately change our teacher perceptions of STEM and our student perceptions of STEM. By doing so and using PBL, and especially the statewide design challenge, we were able to integrate not just STEM career awareness and build community connections, but we were also able to make sure that our students were prepared for the workforce by embedding in those employability skills that students need and the industry actually wants. And as a result of all of these things, we noticed that we weren't just like exposing our students to careers. We weren't just teaching careers in isolation, but we were actually immersing our students in those careers because we leveraged our Chamber of Commerce to help us build a community presence in our STEM identity as well. And as a result of that, our students became those active participants because they weren't just networking with them, they were actively involved with those experts. And with our PBLs, we wanted to make sure that we weren't just like focused on field trips. That's great. We love field trips. All the kids do as well. But how do we really let students know and experience what this career really does and the value and the need of this career to our community? And in order to do that, we were able to just reframe our PBL infrastructure. We already had a model and a template that we used throughout our program, but by reframing it just a little bit, using the rubric to help us with that component, we were able to integrate some of those STEM practices that students actually need to know and be able to do every day. And as a result of these things, we realized that by integrating the STEM practices into our PBLs and also into just our regular content, that we were increasing our STEM literacy skills, that we were getting more tangible outcomes among our students that would transcend beyond the classroom and beyond that standardized exam. Because while a standardized exam is great, students are more than a test score. And that test score is not going to mean anything when they get in the real world and they're put in a position where they have to communicate or they have to problem solve. So we want our students to not just be literate with the STEM practices, but be able to apply those in a meaningful and relevant way. And also to be competent. And by focusing on the PBL component, we were able to increase career readiness because we were able to embed the 21st century skills. It's a natural path to engage students not just in communication, but also collaboration and critical thinking and problem solving in general. And PBL also is a natural path for immersing students in discovery and exploration. And it actually gives you that opportunity to create more relevance, and then students do better. If they know that, hey, I'm going to be presenting in front of a panel of judges at the end of this product and sharing my results or my solution to a product or to a problem in general, then, oh my goodness, I've got to take this seriously. And the metacognition has been a game changer as well. So as a result of all of these things and reframing our content and immersing these in our STEM pathway, like PBL in our STEM pathway, we've been able to connect many different skill sets, build soft skills as a result, whether students wanted to or not. Because most, they would probably tell you that, like, I can't present, and I'll never be able to do that. But by the end of the semester, they were like, oh my gosh, I did that. And I think what has been really impactful for me is I had a student that actually told me when she graduated, she said, thank you, Miss A, for teaching me that life is like a Rube Goldberg machine. It's a series of problems that you always have to solve, but if you solve one problem at a time, you'll make it and you'll succeed in the end. And to me, that made it all work. All of the moments of a little frustration, the time that I spent trying to build PBLs and do the right work, it made it more worthwhile because I knew that while she may have done well on a standardized exam, she was prepared for the workforce. And so I guess in summary, our process has been a little bit different. We had this great vision, but it was just super disconnected, and we really didn't know what we thought PBL was really not what it is and what it should be or could be. So the rubric actually in the STEM designation process actually gave us that roadmap and a jumping off point to reframe how we were doing PBLs. And when we decided to develop our STEM pathway courses, we wanted STEM to be more than a class. We wanted it to become a mindset. And so we knew that we had this great opportunity to leverage the community partners, to bring them in the classroom, to serve as not just on an advisory board, but as mentors and judges, and to be able to network with students, and so that students could become actively engaged in the community and change the community for the better in many ways. That we were literally standing on a gold mine, because we are fortunate enough to be in a building that the Chamber of Commerce is beneath us. We have businesses all around us, and we have a college and university who is just like right down the road from us, so we could leverage many community partners in order to do this work. And I think in many aspects, it's not just prepared me, but it has prepared my students. And ultimately, I have students that would never choose to take a STEM class. We have a mixed bag of students, many of which did not choose DBXL because it was a STEM school. And so all of our students, 100% of our students take STEM 1 and STEM 2 so that they are exposed to that. This year we just rolled out STEM 3, and some of our future initiatives are to embed the Lean Six Sigma. Me and another staff member are planning on getting certified for that so that we can train our students and use that process so that they are more ready for the workforce than what they are now. We also embed industry credentials into our STEM pathway classes in our engineering 1 and 2, so that students are not only certified, or not only will be certified for that, but they're also OSHA certified, and they have that credential. And I think just in many ways, like, it's helped us get better, and I look forward to the redesignation process, and I'm excited to kind of see like where we are, like how we've grown, and how we've not just grown as a program, but how we've actually grown our students. Thank you.
right, there are so many great things that I wrote down. Thank you so much for sharing. Designation gave your vision something to hold on to. It gave you that path, that feedback to improve your practice. I wrote STEM identity down a couple of times, talking about building that presence in the community and creating that STEM mindset. And I really liked the student quote, "Life is like a Rube Goldberg machine," because that is very true. You mentioned project problem-based learning quite a bit. That is a significant component of the rubric, and we'll talk a little bit more about that when we talk about curriculum integration and using integration as a tool, instructional toolkit tool. The tangible impact, students becoming an active participant in the local community. I think that's what we want for all Tennessee students. We want them to be active in their community and to feel like they're a part of it, to value it and be proud of where they come from. So thank you so much. All right, so next we have Ben DeChara. He will be sharing the Peabody High School story.
So my name is Ben DeChara. I'm the recent CTE director for our school district. We're located in Gibson County. And when I say recent, I mean less than 1 year. I've lived in the STEM world only for quite some time. So recently just entered the CTE world as a whole, which was a really good tie-in for our STEM program. So the first thing that I would like to do is go backwards. I'd like to go forward, if I could go forward. I'm going the wrong way. And now I'm turning the slideshow off. There we go. That was a test, and you all passed for laughing at my jokes. The first thing I'd like to talk about is a phrase that I feel like makes a lot of folks uneasy to say, and that's the phrase, "I don't know." We have a lot of initiatives that sometimes we feel like we are pushing on others. We feel like they are being pushed on us. And then the question is, man, how are we going to do this? And then instead of saying, "I don't know," we try to figure out some way to do it. So instead of saying, "Man, I don't know how we're going to do that," we try to make something up, or we try to do something that we're unsure of. What we've done in Trenton is we have created a vehicle. That vehicle is our STEM program. All the new initiatives that we want to do, all the new initiatives that we need to do, computer science, we are going to run through the vehicle that we already have. The STEM program over the last 7 years has grown from the corner of a classroom to a district-wide initiative. So the pictures that you're seeing up here in the top, those are a transformed library that we have, and then the one down here is actually of our makerspace at our elementary school. I know I'm talking about high school here, but the goal is that this started in the corner of a classroom at the high school level, and now we have gone down to the middle school level, to the elementary school level, and someone had talked about the goal is that their district is a STEM designated district. Us too, okay? We'll race you. We have a lot fewer schools than y'all do. Just teasing. No, I love it. I think that's great, and I think that's the goal, is we expose our kids all the way down to pre-K, because when we say that something is for all means all, and STEM for all is what's best for all. You are welcome to use that phrase as much as you want. So we have STEM, we have computer science programming that we were able to get through a grant. We would not have gotten that grant unless we had received our STEM designation. That was huge. When you're talking to the people that help fund some of your projects, and they say, well, what is this money going to be used for? We're going to use this in our STEM program. We're going to do this so we can expand our career readiness, so our career exploration. Those are the things that we want to do with the money that you're willing to give us. And I feel, this is a personal opinion here, I feel that helps when you're talking to people that are wanting to support your school, especially with money. Student organizations, as far as clubs, maker spaces, one of my favorite things to do is talk to people that 100% understand what a makerspace is, and you don't have to go into that explanation. The STEMtacular events there, STEMtacular, just a clever name. You know, sometimes we tag something with STEM at the front, the middle, the end, just to give it that name so it's kind of catchy. The purpose of that STEMtacular event is so we could have a vehicle that we could inform our students and our parents. One of the first CTE director meetings that I went to, there's all these people there. We're going over this activity. and someone asks, and they say, we want our parents to be more aware of what's happening in our CTE programs. So they don't know. We have a Facebook page. We have Twitter. I don't know if they have Instagram or not, but we send out a printed flyer in the mail. We put it on our webpage, but we just don't have the parent involvement that we want. So what's happened is we've pushed the involvement out instead of trying to bring the involvement in. You disguise that as an event. You host, we did a trunk or treat. We do a trunk or treat during the Halloween season, and then we do a Christmas Stemtacular where we hire a Santa Claus to come in. And then in spring, we have, we call it the STEM Expo. It's another Stemtacular where we invite other schools to come in, but parents are invited to that, siblings are invited to that. It's disguised as this real big, fun theme park, Disney World day, but what it is, it's our vehicle that we can inform the parents and the students. This is what's going on in your child's school. I have an 8-year-old son that I love dearly. I'm not sure if that's reciprocated from him, but I would certainly want to know what was going on in my child's school. And if it's an event that school is having, my son's tagging at me. He's like, hey, Dad, let's go. I want to be there. And then when I get there, we're informing the parents and the other students what it is that we're doing. So I'm going to really try to stay off of my soapbox when I'm talking up here. So the grants that I talked about there, the TVA grant, we're very thankful for being able to get that. The TEC, it's actually the Out of School Time Career Pathways grant through the Nashville Tech Council, and the TSIN grants, and then the Innovative School Models grant. So a lot of us are working on the Innovative School Models grants, or we've already finished that and we're starting that implementation. Tying in your STEM program through all of those, extremely valuable, extremely helpful. These are the things we want to do. We already have a vehicle with which to do them. The meaningful work-based learning placements, if I'm talking high school level here, work-based learning, we're talking about students that go to work during the school day, so their school day looks a little bit different. Co-op is another term that means the same thing, but work-based learning is what it's referred to. So we want to make sure that when those students are going to work, bless you, we want to make sure that when the students are going to work, that they are doing something that they want to be doing, number one, but something that is impactful for where their education has taken them. So we want to make sure that where they're working lines up with what they think or what they want their future to be. Because if we're just doing an arbitrary placement for work-based learning, the student's got a job, that's great. They're helping support their family. I love it. But then what? They graduate high school, and then what? We have to make it meaningful. My favorite part of the rubric for STEM designation is that it makes you stay meaningful with your STEM program. It's not a flavor of the week project that your teachers are doing anymore. They are lining up their program, their classes with a curriculum, or they are setting that class, that program up to a standard that rubric aligns for them. So I'm going to move forward here. Talking about expansion, 2017 was when we started the STEM program. So next year, moving into fall of 2023, from that corner of the classroom now to the entire district. I saw a slide one time and it said people like big numbers. So 100% is about as big as you can get. 100% of our high school students will have STEM specific classes. That doesn't mean that 100% of our students are joining STEM club or we're pulling them out for a certain STEM time, one time a week. That means every day they are in a class that is STEM specific, because it's not a secret. Someone else had said it. We are all STEM teachers. Every single teacher in your school is a STEM teacher, whether they're certified or not. They can be a STEM teacher the way that they teach their class. 100% of juniors will all have had STEM 3 and career immersion, and that's actually happening now. So all of our juniors that are in STEM 3 are part of a job shadowing program. We have virtual job shadowing that goes on, and we've just started an implementation program where we're sending our students out for a couple of days at a time to where they can spend a day or two in the life of, and I know that that's job shadowing, but it's more meaningful because they're not going to just hang out. When they get there, they're doing things, and they're seeing, like, do I really want to be an x-ray technician? You're about to find out for the next 4 hours. And then 100% of our middle school students will experience STEM learning through a program that we have called STEMclusion. And then 100% of elementary school students will have STEM through our Sprouts Specials program. Sprouts, students prioritizing responsibility and organization with and through STEM. I have to say that slowly. We call them Sprouts because they're youngins, right? But putting the letters, that was actually a grant that was funded through TVA last year or 2 years ago. But those are our vehicles. That's the way that we implement this through 100% of the students in our district. Implementing STEM, fantastic. I love it. I agree 100%. Students are a lot more than a test score, but there is a time when we have to answer for test scores. And we had to show just how impactful this was beyond that it's good, beyond that students are learning things, because I can say, man, these students, they're gaining a lot, and everything that they're doing is great. The community's tied in. The parents are loving school. The kids are loving school. That is wonderful, okay? We agree. Tell me about your math scores, because that question happens. So we needed and we wanted some proof. We wanted some data to show that. So here's just 3 examples. There's a few more, but here's just 3 examples of within the last year of where our test scores were to where our test scores are now. And that was actually born, that English 1 EOC, that actually came from a combo class that we called STEMlish, where we had an English teacher and a STEM teacher, combined forces, and they taught STEM and English at the same time during the same period for 1 semester. So we figured it out, made sure we were within the law. We are. And those students for 1 semester, not year long, 1 semester, 1 period, got a credit for English 1 and a credit for STEM 1 because they had those 2 teachers in that room teaching the content area. That was a huge risk that we were willing to take because we knew how good this was. And so I just could not wait for that data to come out. So for both semesters, here's the results of what we saw for those students that were in that STEMlish class. That's comparative to other students that didn't take the STEMlish class. There was no honors selection for that. It was students from all ranges. And if we go back, I've learned the back button here. If we go back and you see these pictures, some of those students are special ed. Some of those students are higher level learners. We do not discriminate in the STEM program. All means all. Every single student in our building, even the ones that are in the least restrictive environment room, they get to experience STEM just like everybody else. The level is just a little bit different. So I think Dr. Fears had mentioned a library that had been transformed. We were one of them. Our school was built in the 70s. Hopefully by looking at this picture here, it does not look like it. Our library is centrally located in the middle of the school. It's a bit redundant, but it's right in the middle of the school, so it is the heart of our school. The STEM program is the heart of our school. And we believe that. We don't just think that. We believe it, and our community believes that. So we started the transformation process 2 summers ago, and it was finished last January. We had a big opening ceremony. TSIN team came. That meant the world to us. Commissioner Swin came. That was awesome. But what we did is we tore the walls down of the library, did a lot of research. Over 50% of our books hadn't been checked out in 3 years or more. Students weren't going to the library anymore. They all have Chromebooks. We live in a digital world, so we were able to transform that space into something more meaningful, something that our students were going to be able to use a lot more. We needed more space because our goal was to have 100% of our students in STEM courses. We made more space. It's like, well, we want to make our space, but we don't have a spot for it. Yes, you do. There is a place. All right, soapbox. I'll get off of it, I promise. So we took the walls down, replaced it with glass because we wanted people to see inside of it. When I say people, I wanted students to walk by and think, man, I cannot wait to get to that class. The room looks cool, great, sure. But if they're looking at it as they're walking by, they see their peers in there. It's like, man, they look like they're having an awesome time doing their class, whatever project it is that they're doing. How do I get in there? Or maybe the thought is, I can't wait to get in there. When you have a student that's saying, I can't wait to go to someone's class, fill in the blank with whatever teacher that is, then you've won the game. The reason we remodeled the library It needed a remodeling, but also our librarian asked us if we could. We have been organic with STEM since we started, meaning there was never a mandate that we pushed out administratively saying we're gonna do this. It was a lot of conversations, it was a lot of activity, it was a lot of student buy-in, a lot of word of mouth, and then just individually going to classrooms and saying, look, we wanna help, we wanna do this, here's how this can help your history classroom, here's how this can help your English classroom. So our librarian coming to us and saying, look, I want something in here that's gonna make the students wanna be in the library more. Awesome. Now our librarian is 100% librarian / STEM teacher. So she teaches STEM 100% of the day along with her librarian responsibilities.
Perfect. You know, I did want to call this out. You know, it's so exciting to see the increase in EOC scores at Peabody High School after designation was earned, after the creation of this STEMlish class where STEM and English are paired together. It's just incredible. And knowing that the designation rubric provides a guide for these schools that in high school grades, teacher self-efficacy and student motivation are positively impacted is a win. I really loved what Ben said about I cannot wait to get in there. STEM is for all, that pre-K through 12 focus, and really that rubric providing a meaningful guide for schools. So that's really great to hear. So we're excited about the EOC scores. Oh, no, now I'm pushing the back button. We're excited about the EOC scores, but it's also exciting to know that high school students from designated schools are ready for college and career. Now that's a bold statement with a strong period behind it, so I'll explain what that means. In order for a student to be considered a Tennessee-ready graduate, they must complete at least one of the following criteria: an ACT composite score of 21 or higher, they must complete 4 early post-secondary opportunities, or complete 2 early post-secondary opportunities and pass an industry credential. So the goal is to increase exposure to workplace skills along with post-secondary learning experiences. And like Ben said, we do like big numbers, and we can say that designated high schools have an average ready graduate score of 76%. That's 36% higher than the state average. I mean, it's incredible. Yes, applaud it. There is an additional attribute on the rubric specifically for high schools focused on increasing the exposure to early post-secondary opportunities, and it is evident that these schools are taking significant steps to make sure that their students are prepared for whatever comes after graduation, and that is great news for Tennessee. So we're going to pause for just a moment. We're going to dig a little bit deeper into the research questions with the leadership panel, but we're going to pause just a moment to get our leadership panel up to the stage.
right, welcome back. My name is Krista McQueen. I will be our panel moderator, and I am joined up here by 3 STEM leaders. We have heard a lot today from voices in our STEM community, and it is so impactful for us to continue hearing these voices and learning from the community of networks that we're in. So I'm joined by Ben DeChara, Dr. Michael Ford from Murray County, and Dr. Catherine Jones from Putnam County. And our panel today, we're going to focus on our 3 research questions that sparked from our Vanderbilt study. And we're going to let each of our 3 panelists have a go at each question. We have heard a lot of themes today, right? We have heard a lot of schools share their perspectives, and we have heard a lot of different themes. But the thing is each of our schools, a part of this designation community, we're all unique, we're all special, we're all working towards the same goal, and we're all doing it differently. So it's just a really great opportunity for us to learn and hear from unique perspectives. And so we're going to start with our first question. Does the Tennessee STEM or STEAM designation process prepare educators to teach in a more integrated way? So we'll let each of our panelists respond to this first question.
All right, so does the Tennessee STEM and STEAM designation process prepare educators to teach in a more integrated way? I think we all just experienced some of that from the different folks talking, and the data shows that it does. So if we look at that rubric and we know we want to continue designation or designation something we want to achieve, then that rubric says that we are integrating these concepts into the core curriculum. So I think it definitely helps align that for educators.
Yeah, I definitely agree, but I also think this question opens up an opportunity for something we may have missed this morning. Our friends at Overall Creek kind of alluded to this, but the TSIN network does an outstanding job celebrating schools all the time. And I am absolutely blown away this morning that we get to sit here and celebrate them. So I think, audience, we need to clap, cheer, stomp our feet, hoop, and holler for TSIN. People at home, you can do that too that are watching. And the reason I say that, if it wasn't for a group like this that partnered with the Tennessee Department of Education and came in, not to sound corny, not to start, I guess, spouting off little sayings here and there that people might want to quote or might not, I kind of see TSIN as a spark that started the flame. There were lots of schools, different places, kind of dabbling around this, burned out maybe, tired of desks in rows, books in hands, kind of an antiquated system of teaching and learning, knowing that kids needed more. They needed more opportunities. Teachers needed more. They needed more opportunities. Leaders needed more. We needed more opportunities. And I know my passion really got pumped up. I don't know if that's the right way to say that or not, but when I started working with TSIN back in 2018, 2019, that flame got fanned like nobody's business, and everybody needed to look out. Because, I mean, I think everybody in this room, you've heard those themes, you've heard those trends. It's about the kids. And if it wasn't for a group like this that gave us, to get back to the question, that gave us a designation process to kind of pull everybody together to start that network across the state, I mean, look out. The things these kids are going to be able to do, just wait and see.
Hi, I'm Catherine Jones, and I want to get back to the all means all. At Prescott South Elementary, we are an inclusive campus. We house a couple of county programs on our campus. About 20% of our students qualify for some sort of an IEP service, and it's really important that they develop, that everyone develops the skills, but often it's misunderstood that STEM is for advanced students, and everyone is advanced. You've heard the statement, if you judge a fish on its ability to climb a tree, we don't want to judge students in that way. So I just want to be a proponent of all means all, what Mr. DeChara was talking about. So I frame this question: how does the STEM and STEAM designation process prepare educators to teach in a more integrated way? On our campus, it helped encourage the team planning and looking at standards-based instruction. What's the goal? What do the students need to be able to apply at the end of this learning experience? And we use that as our purpose for STEM integration, for problem-based learning, for a challenge. And that embeds that engineering design mindset. So the students collaborate, think collaboratively, think critically, question, listen, all those things are embedded while they're applying those grade level standards, and that's for students who are achieving at all levels. So that's one example in an elementary school.
Thank you. All right, our second question from our research is, are students from STEM or STEAM designated schools better prepared for secondary education?
I have the mic, so here we go again. So once again, I say, how are students from STEM and STEAM designated schools better prepared for secondary education? It is my belief with a student-focused school, you're trying to work on their capacity. What are they able to do? You want to maximize their capacity. And when you do that through the engineering design mind frame, the STEM mindset, it builds that capacity. They're able to think more deeply. They're able to hold multiple steps in their working memory. They're able to have a wider conception of a broader concept that without exposure you simply don't have. And I could name several examples in the elementary setting where I feel like we are preparing them, and we're fortunate because we feed a middle school that is also a STEM designated middle school. So we feel like everything we accomplish in elementary is handed next door, and I feel like that really prepares them to make those high school decisions, to choose a track. Often everyone in this room has said everyone may not be a STEM major, but they're going to use their STEM skills with their career choice. And so I feel like we really we have that in place.
That's great. Thank you. I would agree with a lot of what Catherine just said. Sorry about that. Also, though, I think it's important with a STEM school when you're thinking about culture, put whatever buzzword you want to on it: engineering design process, critical thinking, student choice, student voice. This question really made me think about a situation early on in our journey where I was sitting in my office. Actually, we were standing because I have a standing desk in my office. I was standing in my office with another teacher, and the teacher was ready to leave the profession. Now, this was early on in our STEM journey as a school, and the reason they were ready to leave is because they had gotten their high-stakes testing data back. They come back as a level 1 teacher. I'm a level 1, Dr. Ford. I'm horrible. I'm hurting these kids. I'm ruining things. And that was hard, but I think as a leader, you're a coach. As an educator, you're a coach. And so I spent time with that teacher, and this kind of became the mantra for our school. Our job as educators are not to prepare the kids for our future. Our job as educators are to prepare the kids for their futures. And when I talked to that teacher about that, we started thinking through all the different things they had been doing, giving kids critical thinking skills, ability to problem solve things. And that's kind of replicated and carry over. That teacher didn't leave, they stayed. I pumped her up and she stayed, so that was great. But I think where you see that in our school, a big part of our culture, Friday celebrations. We have a house system, so think Harry Potter, Ron Clark, whatever. But we have a house system that's a big part of our culture, and we have Friday morning celebrations that goes into that. I won't get on my soapbox either. But there was a student in our school, I might get emotional, sorry about that, but he had heard me say every Friday morning celebration, I wish we had a way to show who our house champion was this week. I wish we had a way to show. He'd heard me say that. I didn't realize I was saying it. He came up to me and said, hey, I've got an idea. I'm going to design a trophy. I don't know if we can 3D print it or not, but let's make a trophy we can hand off to each house that wins every Friday. So the cool thing that came out of that kid used his critical thinking. He used his problem-solving skills, a problem I had, I didn't even know, and he had been learning that since kindergarten. I am getting emotional because it's my son too, by the way. But anyway, he worked with us. Our 3D printers couldn't design the trophy, but that led to partnering with a community partner that could design the trophy, and it's so cool. So now what we're starting is a wall of student accomplishments where students have worked through the critical thinking, engineering design process, whatever you want to call it, and accomplishments kids have had to partner and solve things for our schools, for our community partners, and that'll become a historical part of our culture where kids that come through that building long after I'm gone, as they come through that building, they'll be able to see, hey, that kid did that, I'm going to do something better.
I love it. It's always great hearing a story that involves 3D printing. It's the nerd in us sometimes. I wasn't calling your kid a nerd. Just, yes, ditto, everything. I love every bit of it. And then as a high school, when we get those kids from middle school and then they've come from an elementary school that does this and then they go to a middle school that also does this and they get to us, they are ready to go. We're not starting over. We're not starting 100% fresh with those kids on an academic standpoint. And that's really important to us. The number one thing you hear those freshman teachers say is like, oh my gosh, what did you do in middle school? And I don't think that they're taking a shot at the middle school. I think they're just saying, man, what happened? Like, what can we do to get you caught up? How many of our students are behind right now because of some things that have happened recently? A lot. So how do we get those students better prepared? Aligning the things we're doing within our districts is a huge key to that. And if we are working STEM in the elementary, working STEM in the middle, and then we're continuing STEM in the high school, that leads to the opportunities that happen after high school. So ACT training and ACT classes that are offered, study shows, and this is actually from ACT.org, that a content-related class that's added to a student's course load is more beneficial for them achieving a higher ACT score. ACT trainings, ACT tutorings are great, but the amount that score increases is minimal compared to adding an actual course to that student's class load. So embedding STEM as a course that 100% of our students are going to be taking is going to help our ACT score. So I'll have data for you in about 2 years on that, because the junior class right now is going to be graduating next year, 100% of them, hopefully. And we'll be able to gather that data to see how much of an impact that's had. And then beyond a 4-year university, students that are ready for the workforce. I know we're talking about education, but we do have students that go straight to the workforce. That's important too. The number one thing we ask our employers, what do you want our students to be able to do when they get here? What do you want out of these kids when they get to you? They're 17, 18 years old. The number one answer we've gotten, we would like them to show up. We would like them to be on time. Responsibility, accountability, being able to problem solve. The phrase "figure it out" has become popular at our place now. And then if we have a place that kind of combines the workforce and college, like a TCAT, because the C in TCAT stands for college, there is no ACT score required for those students to get in to most of those programs. So if they don't have to have the ACT score, then what do you want the students to have when they get here? We'd like them to show up on time. We'd like them to show up. So the theme is very similar. Preparing our kids for that is the goal.
Well, and I think every single one of us in this room, and if you're watching online, I think that we can all think of a student in a moment, like Dr. Ford shared with us, where we get emotional and we have this light that goes off for us in our heart, and we know that that student is better prepared for secondary education. So we'll move on to our third and final question, and we've talked a little bit about the designation rubric today and how our STEM designated schools continue to use that rubric, but let's talk a little bit about how it builds a sense of community around STEM school-wide.
All right, so the rubric, part of it, if you've looked at it in detail, and everyone in this room has, with the folks at home, if you haven't, part of it is, what does your STEM leadership team look like? Who are the people that are helping make decisions for your school? The answer to that, if it's a specific team of people, those are your decision makers, those are your major stakeholders, great. And really, maybe unpopular opinion here, 100% of your teachers are on your STEM leadership team in some aspect, in some area. So incorporating all of your teachers into this process is huge. One of the hardest lessons that I've learned is that when you try to include everybody, then you are unintentionally excluding somebody. You don't mean to do it, but someone's going to feel like they are uninvited. So using the words all, using the words every when we're talking about STEM in your schools and we're talking about this implementation process are going to be extremely important. So moving forward from where we once were, all of our teachers, and that's why I made that comment earlier, all of our teachers are STEM teachers in some aspect. All of our students are STEM club members. You don't have to be in a STEM CTE class to be in STEM club. You don't have to be good you don't have to be good at anything to be in STEM club. But if you want to be a part of something, hey, yeah, you're in STEM club. It's May. School's almost over. You want to be in STEM club? Sure. But just including everybody and making sure that they feel included is huge in helping grow that community.
Yeah, I agree. And I think for this question, when I think about community, anytime you're working with a group of people, there's going to be conflict. And I think one thing that I've seen in our school in particular, the rubric has provided a foundation to handle that conflict. Maybe a new teacher on staff doesn't understand the components. We can go back, when I say we, our leadership team, so that's me or someone off the team, someone in the building, can go back to that rubric and point out more of the why behind what we're doing. Maybe there's a new initiative we want to try, can create some conflict. Not to get too long-winded with it, the bottom line there, that rubric, that wording, the way that document's set up, it gives you as the school leader the opportunity and the tools to really kind of expand the mission, the vision, the goals of the organization so everyone can find that buy-in, everyone can hear that why, understand that why. I think, though, it goes beyond just school-wide. I think at this point we could say that document goes statewide. Everybody that's had exposure to it, that's worked with it, has seen the same language. And what's been really cool this morning, in my opinion, as you heard different schools tell their story, STEM doesn't look the same in any building, and it won't. One of the things early on, again, in our career, or not our career, our approach to being a STEM school, helping teachers understand STEM's not this thing you go pull off the shelf like a math book or a reading book. It becomes organic. It becomes a part of your school, that innovative culture you want to set up, and I think it's really neat. You've got that statewide now, so you can go talk to other people in your position, in a different position, in a different district, whatever, and you're all speaking the same language. So it's really doing good work, that macro and that micro view when you think about that. And at the end of the day, it's best for kids. It's helping students. It's preparing them, for their future.
Thank you. I agree. And I would like to add, I'm going to circle back to the team planning aspect. At grade level planning, you're going to have teachers who have taught in that grade level before and possibly teachers who have not. And so when you're team planning to integrate those standards, and they're like a new teacher might be trying to understand what application looks like at a mastery level, and the experienced teachers are trying to explain that, all of a sudden you have this rich environment for learning. So experienced teachers may explain what's happened in the past, what it looked like in the past, and then that sparks ideas for the newer teachers, which is a refreshing perspective, which heightens the experience for the students. The end result is a richer experience. It's the ultimate collaboration. Then I want to go a scale larger. In this room, we have our STEM community. The people who are interested in this field, we all speak that common language. The rubric is the high expectation piece for all of us. That's what we do and why we do it, because it's what we want for our students. So I find it interesting that, yes, within a school it creates community, within a district it creates community, and within the state it has definitely created a community. I've been fortunate. We were one of the platform schools in 2012. So we did 5 years of STEM work prior to the designation rubric being created or developed. And it was a grassroots movement. There was a lot of learning, and there was a lot of safe failure. What I've learned is I just want to have really high quality failure. If I'm going to fail, I at least want to do the best job possible to fail. And so I think that keeps everything with that continuous improvement cycle. Once again, I don't intend it as a buzzword, it's just terminology, but I agree with what you're saying. My final thoughts on this are how much STEM has changed, how much it changed the first 5 years I was involved, how much it has changed in the last 5 years, and how exciting for the community what the next 5 years is going to look like. And I'm going to end with the term AI. Wow.
Can we give it up for our panelists? Thank you for sharing your perspective. Again, we have heard a lot of different themes that have emerged around school culture, but again, everybody's perspective is unique and something that we can identify and learn from. And before we transition, I do just want to touch a little bit on redesignation. We had talked just a little bit about it, but our redesignation, when schools earn STEM or STEAM designation, it is good for 5 years, and after that 5-year mark, schools are encouraged to reapply for redesignation. In 2018, which was when this process started, we had 15 schools that were awarded the STEM designation, and this year, our 2018 schools are up for redesignation, and we have all 15 schools that have elected to reapply for redesignation. So, after 5 years, we know how much can happen in 5 years, right? Especially this last 5 years, right? These schools have dealt with COVID, leadership changes, all of these challenges that we're able to overcome, that this process is sustainable. It provides an innovative way for schools and students to succeed. If you want to learn more about the redesignation process, it is on page 16 of the report. If you were to scan it or scan the QR code at home, you can visit it there. So thank you.
All right, like Kristen said, if you are interested in learning more about the process timeline, about the priority areas or the attributes within the rubric, or more about the redesignation component, it is embedded in the report, and we'll also be sure to send out a PDF copy of that to everyone that's joining us virtually, as well as our folks here in the room. So, the Tennessee STEM and STEAM school designation process has 3 fundamental goals. The first is to give students experiences that will help them build skills and content knowledge that they need to solve the world's greatest problems. Because let's face it, today's innovators are in your classrooms right now. Schools will embrace an integrated approach to teaching and learning so students can build those competencies to solve those problems, and then to provide a continuous improvement tool that results in a sustainable school culture model. Now, there's just a few key research findings that I want to highlight that really tie into that theme of reimagining what school culture can be. So starting with the aspects that support educators, because that's where we should begin. Providing a safe space for developing a growth mindset, prioritizing professional development, and embedding that community partnership component, along with strong support from administration, are consistent themes across STEM and STEAM designated schools. Teachers view integration as a valuable tool in their instructional toolkit. So the systems and the structures within the rubric put an intentional focus on integration as a teaching tool. The curriculum and instruction section of the rubric, it is the largest section for a reason, and it provides that guidance on integrating learning, including STEM career awareness, technology integration, and embedding design thinking or the engineering design process into everyday lessons. And you've heard some examples from our schools that presented today. Resources at these schools are used to create more collaborative spaces like simulation centers, high-tech libraries, and fabrication labs. And teachers are collaborating not only with each other to learn how to use this equipment and these tools and this pedagogy behind STEM, but they're also collaborating with industry partners, building those workplace-ready skills. And then finally, the practices needed to build a sustainable school culture are present within this process, including, and we heard it from our panel just a moment ago, leadership engaging all staff, a school-wide focus on STEM learning, community member support, and scaffolding to promote sustainability. One of our resources, and I believe it's on page 4 of the report, is the STEM Action and Sustainability Plan, We also have a mentorship model where we pair applicants that are going through the process with schools that have already been through the process and earned designation. So providing that infrastructure is a critical component to supporting schools as they're taking on this endeavor. Now, it's important to note that there were 2 recommendations from Vanderbilt on how to enhance this process, and we do embrace the design cycle, so we wanted that feedback. One is to put a stronger emphasis on community partner-led professional development, specifically in the elementary setting. And the second is around self-care for teachers, specifically providing supports to decrease planning stress for middle and high school teachers with multiple course loads. You know what it's like when you're teaching 3 preps. It's a challenge. Now, these recommendations will absolutely, they're noted, and they'll be addressed in our coming iterations of the rubric. So we will wrap up with this final thought. It's been made clear throughout this study that the STEM and STEAM school designation process emphasizes the key attributes that build a sustainable school culture. Educators need support and a concrete framework that focuses on factors, like we've heard it before, beyond those student assessment measures. And it includes the local community, the learning environment, the learner's self-actualization, where they see themselves in our world, and their cognitive ability development. So I just want to say thank you to Dr. Fears and Vanderbilt University for conducting this study. I want to say thank you to all of the schools for your passionate commitment to school culture, and I want to say thank you to state leadership for prioritizing this work. It is very important. We plan to continue to release additional data. Vanderbilt's final report will be ready this spring, and hopefully at the end of February we can host another webinar where we can actually solicit questions from our virtual viewers and get all of your questions answered. So stay tuned to hear more about that. We truly, truly hope that this information helps you reimagine what school culture can be. Thank you for joining us.